back, everybody. For everyone's information, this meeting is being recorded. And I will start with the invocation. Lord, we truly thank you that you're an awesome God. Thank you, God, for how much you love us and how much you care for us, God, and how faithful you are to us. Thank you, God, for the life and health that you've given each and every one of us. Thank you for your many blessings. Lord, we pray that as we start this new session of government after being off for summer break, God, that it'll be a productive session because there's a lot of work to do in the city. We pray, God, that this government will work cohesively together to accomplish big things for the city, Lord. We pray, God, for the children that are going back to school tomorrow and those who have already started. We pray for your blessings upon them as they go and learn in a new environment. Pray that you protect our children, keep our children, God, and may they all flourish. We pray, Lord, for the health and safety of every citizen in Glen Arden, that we'll be vigilant and stand safe against this coronavirus and do all that we can do to help others from contracting this deadly virus. Lord, we pray that you'll be with Chief O'Donnell's family as they mourn the loss of a pillar of their family, and we mourn the loss of our longstanding chief. Pray for your comfort, pray for your healing, pray for your togetherness, and pray, God, that the special memories, the loving memories that we have, God, will continue to just reside in our hearts. We thank you. Bless this meeting. May it be productive in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We will have the roll call. Councilman Hairston.
Present.
Councilman Harry.
Here.
Councilwoman Fareed.
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Present.
Councilwoman Jones.
Here.
And Councilwoman Ferguson.
Here.
Councilman Curtis is here, so we have all 7 in attendance. Okay. Councilwoman Ferguson, does the motion become before adding something to the agenda or after? I think the motion comes first. It's been
What did you say?
motion to accept the agenda. So first. No. Do I have a motion? That's the question. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Well, Council President, before, and I don't know if this goes before or after, so I don't know if that's your question as well. Before accepting the agenda, I did add something later on. So if we do have time,
yep.
How about if I do this to the council? If we do have time, I would like to add one more thing to the agenda, and that's the Glen Arden Housing Authority Community/Tenant Council meeting space. So again, if we have time.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten about you. So we have to call it a motion to accept it. Discussion is when we add. I have 2 items that we're going to add, yours and Councilman Harring's. So do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All right, so that's Herring first. And Ferguson, Councilwoman Ferguson, second. Discussion. So I did want to note that I do have 2 items to add, one from Councilman Herring, one from Councilman Fareed, not Fareed, Guillaume. that being the GHA Tenant Council Community from Councilwoman Guillaume and election ballot for Councilman Herring. So I'll add those at the bottom of the agenda in order that, yeah, at the bottom of the agenda. With that, we can vote on accepting the agenda. I'm sorry, any other discussion before we call for a vote on the agenda? Okay. Can I have a vote to accept the agenda? Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, with the 2 additional, if we have time.
Councilwoman Guillaume?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed?
Yes.
Councilman Hairston?
Yes.
Councilman Herring?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ferguson?
Yes.
And myself, Councilwoman Curtis, yes. The meeting agenda has been accepted. And for all the citizens that are listening, this is a work session. So for this session, we will not be taking citizen comments unless needed or we call for clarity. And we will be ending this meeting on time. The goal is 9 o'clock. So if we have not started the topic before the 9:45 mark, then the latter agenda items will be tabled into our next meeting. Okay. And we will move on with our agenda. Erica, back to school recap.
Hi, everyone.
I'm sorry, Councilman Fareed. I apologize.
It's okay. On Saturday, August 28th, the council held a successful back to school event. We distributed backpacks to over 200 recipients. There was a fun time had by all. We had an ice cream truck, we had games. We do still have some supplies left, which we will be donating to the Glen Arden Housing Authority. Again, the event was a success. We did not use any city funds for the event. We were able to secure sponsorship from various sources, including First Baptist Church of Glen Arden, Truist Bank, Senator Joanne Benson, Mayor Kashina Cross, Miss Carolyn Smallwood, and other council members donated items as well as citizens across the city. We held the event at 7th Street Park, which was an unknown park to many in the city of Glen Arden, but we wanted to spotlight that space so that people know that it's available and for use and it's cleared, and children can play over there. And a fun time was had by all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. It was a great event that you and Councilwoman Guillaume prepared, and yeah, great to see the council all coming together to support, and I'm sure all of the kids, youth and young people in our community we're excited to have those supplies. So thank you. Councilman Herring, cable station.
Yes. I just want to get a status on where we are with this cable station, because one thing I've been hearing from the seniors in this community is, where's the cable? Where's the information? What's going on in our city? I think it was up for a while, now it's back down. I had some seniors check today, it's still down. But this is a very vital and important piece of resource for information to our seniors in this community. They are all asking, where is our cable? We don't know what's going on in our city. And they're feeling neglected because everything now is being done via website or Facebook or some other vehicle, some social media vehicle, and they're not on those items. You know, so I just think that this needs to be really expedited when it comes to getting this up and running. So I just want to know, where are we at with this? I mean, are we going to get somebody in there to get this up and running? You know, they want it, and they've been asking. They talked to me at the swearing in. They've talked to me at Not Out on Crime. So you know, they're looking for this cable station to be up and moving soon. I mean, it just seems like it's been dragging, and it seems like it's not a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Guillaume.
I just wanted to say that although Councilman Herring is in Ward 1, I've also heard similar citizens asking, well, excuse me, I've also had some citizens ask about the cable as well, but not in Ward 1. I'm sorry, not just from Ward 1. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Mayor Cross, I see that your hand is up.
Thank you, Council President Curtis. So I would like to address that inquiry about the cable television station. What we have discovered is the cable television station has a lot of electrical surges that's coming through really the municipal building as a whole. We have what's called blackouts that happen here, I'm told by the administrative staff, on a frequent occurrence. Now, the problem with the cable television station is it doesn't have an ups on some of the key equipment that's necessary to run the station. So whenever we do have a big power surge, and it doesn't happen necessarily when there is a storm. In fact, we just had one, and it was a beautiful sunny day, I'm told by the staff, and that's what kicked the station back off again. So we need to put an ups on the actual unit. That is the key unit which runs the station. It has been tested multiple times and it's running fine. We get a surge and it goes out again. So it's killing the fuse inside of the power strip unit there that's now kind of running the entire system. So we have a plan to heal the television station, but we also need to buy a very specific cable that needs to be applied to it. So we have a purchase order that's put together. Acting Chief Jackson is currently out of office. When he returns, then we'll sit down with Dean as the treasurer and work towards procuring those necessary parts to bring the television station back online. So what we discovered is there were a couple of coaxial cables in the cable television station that's been there for God knows how long. So those have been sorted, but without the ups, every time we have a brownout or a blackout here in the building, it knocks the system back off. We are working actively to bring that to correction, and we're expecting it to be up soon. But again, that's what's going on with the cable television station. Thank you.
When you say soon, can we put a timeline on it? Because we've been saying soon for quite some time, not you, Mayor Cross, but this has been a lingering issue. So is there an idea of a timetable that we can, hold ourselves to instead of, just sticking with the soon? Because we've been saying soon for so long that it hasn't been soon. It's been quite some time.
So what I can do is I can get it looked at again tomorrow. We have to purchase these items. Okay, so the purchase order needs to be signed. Acting Chief Jackson, as I said, is out of town. However, I can speak to Lieutenant Robinson, who is acting Chief Jackson's position, and work with Dean as the treasurer to get the purchase order resolved on tomorrow so that we can buy those pieces and put the system back together. The ups is a very critical piece that hasn't been on the television station in the past. And we're hoping that that will resolve our issue. In the meantime, I understand that there is concerning the electricity in the municipal center. Okay, we may need to, if it pleases the council, have an electrician just to come out and do an evaluation of our city center to make sure that particularly in that room, that the electricity outlet isn't also part of the problem where it could have a short in it. So we may need to have that as well. So just know we're going to try to do the immediate fix, which is the replacement of the parts and putting an UPS on the system to protect it from the frequent brownouts that happen here in the municipal center. But if that continues to be a problem, then we must get an electrician here to evaluate the electricity running to that room.
Thank you, Mayor Cross. Councilwoman Jones.
Yes, before Mr. George left the city, he had put out some RFPs for somebody to run the cable station. And I think he got a reply back from the person that did the videography for the swearing in ceremonies for the council and for the mayor-elect at that time. Have we gotten to the point where we are finding someone that's going to be able to run that cable station and bring it also up to speed as far as the equipment that's being used and upgrading those routers and things that's being used for that cable TV station?
So at this time, we don't believe that there is a need for an upgrade. The material that's in the cable television station is one of the top of the line materials. So we have a really good set of infrastructure in that room. Now, to answer the question of having a dedicated body, that is an HD system. So we need to have someone, as you've so stated, trained in the ability to run that television station. Now, one of the aspects as I came into the seat of mayor was that our media specialists would evolve into that role. So more than just doing the blanket flyers or the media board that's here in front of the municipal center, would actually do all things that's pertaining to media. And that includes the television station, and that includes being the webmaster, and that includes, actually doing some of the flyers, etc. So that position, we're working with HR to see what we can do to evolve that position to what the city really needs. So we need more of a body that can run all things media, and that includes that television station. Now, I've been inquired of several citizens of the former television station director or a runner that was there. But yes, the RFP for the cable television station, we need to follow up and find those files. So when former city manager George departed, many of the files obviously are locked in his system. So it's just a matter of going through and trying to find all of those items that we need. But it's neither here nor there. We have put in an ICMA request, and thank you, council, for approving the budget for that. So our account is being set up, so we're waiting for that. And then we can actually look at some more resumes. So just for record, it is the intent to evolve that media specialist position to support such as that, the television station as well as the website. More of what the city needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this topic? Councilman Harry?
Yeah, I'm done with that topic. Thank you, Mayor, for your information. Yeah, the next item is the Mlk Park.
Yes.
Yeah, that is another issue. I just want to know, well, I think I got the information on that already. So we really can just, there's only one thing with that. I mean, I was trying to figure out where we were with the taking down of the building, and I went up there and I talked to the code enforcement officer, and he's submitting the papers for the permit so we can get approval for that. But one thing that we need to do, we need to go ahead and move forward with the second phase of this, and that's putting the equipment down, that the second phase calls for low impact and ADA compliant equipment. So I did say I will reach out to the mayor and give her a copy of it so she can look it over and see what's what. So I'm good with that. So I'm fine.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harry.
Mhm.
Mayor Cross, you have your hand up, or is that still up from earlier?
So I just wanted to touch back on the cable television station. We sent the parts list out. I'll just recirculate those part lists so you'll know exactly what we're preparing the purchase order for.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Website relaunch, Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes, so the website committee has recruited members. That is Mr. Jesse Huff and Ms. Lita Hunter. However, in kind of keeping with what Mayor Cross was just speaking about regarding the media specialist and really having a person who's responsible for the website as well as the other outlets for getting communication out and making sure that there's a coordinated effort, I would like the website committee to be managed by the administration. I think it's more appropriate for it to fall into that for the reasons I just stated. And because the administration is the one, for the most part, developing the content to be placed on the website. So it just from an efficiency standpoint, it makes more sense for the administration to manage that. From a committee standpoint, the website committee hasn't necessarily been an ongoing committee, meaning it's not just kind of a committee that has a chairperson and whatnot. It was really for the launch of the new website and making sure that the right types of information was being collected for the website. So I'm not sure how that should be managed, Mayor Cross, in terms of an ongoing committee. The two members that did volunteer were just going to be tasked with gathering information for the website pages that the department heads as part of the administration were not already collecting.
So thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. And I do agree with you. I believe that the need for the actual committee on the website at this time, because we have foundationed what the new website is going to look like, now it's just a matter of maintenance and ensuring that changes happen. And that's what the media specialist should be for. Mr. Mario Cross, I'm going to talk with him about supporting with the cable television station, any of that kind of audio visual stuff as well, because I mean, with 25 years experience, he can be an asset to the city in volunteer status. So I agree with you. I do need to recognize the work that was put on by many that have supported this website committee from the previous council with Councilwoman Eason coming forward with Mr. Huff and Ms. Hunter. Many thanks. The administration would take that on as one of our maintains because the first line of communication will come then, if you will, out of the administration. And I do echo the concern that Councilman Herring had earlier in the meeting, which spoke to many of our citizens are not necessarily gravitating to the website as frequently as they would the television station. So one of the things that we're evolving with the media specialist is an actual PowerPoint of things to keep that rolling, so that when citizens are actually there, they're seeing something and not just a blank screen. And not only that, but there are this administration, as mayor, I'm reaching out to other communities. So you mentioned the Book Pack Drive here in the city of Glen Arden, but the city also represented at Charles Flowers, also represented at District Heights. So these are some things that as our children are in different environments, we can start rolling these events on the television station, as well as some of the park and planning meetings that are normally on the website, but we can now pull those, if you will, into our multimedia center so that they can start to see, citizens can start to see the changing schematic, if you will, of our zoning, of our census, and how the changes around the city of Glen Arden are actually impacting our citizens as well. So we're going to evolve the media all around. So there's good work to be had. So just know we're working hard on that. But definitely, I agree with you. On the website, we'll bring that under the administration as well as the cable television station. All of those will really become one handshake, if you will.
And so should Mr. Huff and Ms. Hunter expect to hear from you for what their involvement should be going forward?
I will definitely reach out to them. I want to keep a solid volunteer list pool. So if we are not using them actively every day, then, you know, when it comes down to, say, if Department of Public Works wants to reorganize or the Treasury wants to reorganize, we talked about building a dashboard for our financials and putting that on the website. Then that's where we would then leverage our volunteers. So the goal is to have a sufficient volunteer list that we can use throughout the 4 years, very similar to how we use our election committee. So they would stay on that list until they decide not to be on that list. But it's always helpful to have good citizens that volunteer to support in various capacities. So when we need them, we can leverage them. But it won't be a day-to-day requirement, no.
Thank you.
Any other council members have any input on this discussion? Okay, thank you, Councilman Fareed and Mayor Cross. Next topic is the Woodmore Town Center Agreement and Community Room Lease Update. Councilman Fareed?
Yes, so I have been working very closely with our city attorney on really trying to understand what obligations are still outstanding from the Woodmore Town Center development to the city of Glen Arden. If we're owed any monies, are we owed anything else, and just kind of really getting a handle on that so that we can understand if we're owed money, how we go about getting that money, and you know, making sure that the agreement is complete and satisfied. The Woodmore Town Center community in terms of housing has been finished, and the residents at Woodmore Town Center have been waiting for the development to be turned over. And with that turnover, again, that may encompass the city being owed some money, but it also deals with the streets that pass through the town. Some of those streets are city streets that we will be required to maintain, and also work with the county to maintain the control the control of traffic for safety purposes. So we really need to accelerate our understanding of that agreement and where we are. There were conversations had with the with DR Horton attorneys several years ago that just kind of stopped. Our city attorney, really the lack of continuity in the city manager role has contributed to us not having sufficient knowledge about what's going on. So we, Mr. Kapinski's office and myself and the city, the attorney for DR Horton and the attorney for the HOA are meeting next week on the 15th to really get an understanding of where we are and what are the next steps to conclude this agreement. And again, most importantly, if there's money owed to us, making sure that we get that money. As some of you may recall, this came about because it was mentioned that we may be owed approximately $2 million from DR Horton, which is a substantial amount of money. And we want to make sure that we are getting all that we are owed with interest if necessary. So we will be meeting with them next week to get a status of where we are and then put a plan forth to make sure we are concluding and make sure that DR Horton has held up their end of the bargain. As it relates to the Woodmore Town Center Community Room, and that's the space that's like on the backside of Old Navy. That lease renews automatically every 4 years. And speaking with the attorney, it actually does not explicitly prohibit us from using that space for rental purposes. So we were advised to reach out to the manager for the Woodmore Town Center commercial space to discuss what, if anything, we would need to do to use that space for rental purposes if we so chose. So that's the update.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. Mayor Cross, I see your hand.
Thank you, Council President Curtis. Councilwoman Fareed, for Ward 3 representative meeting on the 15th of September, if there is an after action report, would you be so kind as to share it? That way we are, as a city, keeping ourselves aware. Also, as a Ward 3 resident myself, highly concerned in that previous conversation that you just talked to, particularly as it pertains to the city streets versus the county streets, and what we need to do relative to our Department of Public Works and the incorporation thereof. If the meeting is following 3 or 5 p.m., respectfully, if it's available for me to attend as well, then that would be awesome if I could have that extended. But if not, then, at least the after action report from your meeting with the attorney and DR Horton. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other council members want to weigh in on this topic?
It looks like Ms. Schultz had her hand up.
Ms. Schultz?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm not a councilman, but I have a question for you, Councilwoman Fareed. Let me get this straight. Should we or should we not be using the community center until we get everything straightened out with the present money?
So the Woodmore Town Center community space right now is available for us to use. The
Okay.
in there is it's working just fine. The air conditioning is working. It's in good, it's clean. So if we, for city purposes wanted to use that space, what I was really questioning was the our ability to rent that space.
That's my question. We are currently, if I'm not mistaken, in the process of renting it. Should we not be renting it until everything is worked out with the attorney?
No, so we can continue to rent it for the cost, and that's essentially what we've been renting it for. What I was more inquiring about was whether we could really rent it for profit, right?
Okay.
To the gold room, and whether or not we could increase that fee. And the lease does actually does not prohibit us from doing that. So I just was pursuing, that avenue to see if that could be another way for us to generate revenue besides kind of just covering our costs. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
I think in terms of the use of the actual space, there needs to be an action taken to say that, the city is open, or that we're going to be using that community room similar for like what we did for the gold room. Unless that's already been done. It sounds like you're saying it has been done since you're renting it.
Is that a question, Councilwoman Fareed?
Yeah, I don't know if Ms. Schultz is answering.
Okay. Mayor Cross and I today contacted the county, and Mayor Cross, please help me if I'm incorrect when you think. We contacted the county today to see if the county was open. And in general, as of September 1, the county is open. The buildings are open in general. They ask that you make an appointment, but that's not necessary. However, what they do ask is that you contact the individual agency to which you wish to visit or work with, because various agencies may have various ways of doing things. But generally, the county opens September 1, and Mayor Cross continues.
Yes, Mayor Cross, could you follow up, because it was kind of difficult to hear Ms. Schultz.
Yes, so actually the county opened up on the 30th of August. And the 30th of August, Prince George's basically decided that the public would be able to enter county buildings if there was a need for an appointment, that there are certain facilities of which you have to have an appointment. So, and those facilities are going to be the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Department of Permitting, Inspection and Enforcement, the Housing Authority, and the Office of Finance. So keeping with the county's provisions for opening up the county, the city of Glen Arden will echo. So as it pertains to those departments, then we need to make sure that there is an appointment, but otherwise our facilities are open. When it pertains to our gold room and other facilities indoors, it remains a requirement that indoor public mask mandate is also kept in with the county's requirements. So Prince George's requires for all indoors, everyone will be in mask, even if they have now lifted the capacity and social distancing requirements. So the restrictions for social distance and capacity have all been lifted, but not the face mask requirement. So indoors, face masks are required. That is in accordance with Prince George's homepage, and that is the executive order number 18-2021, which is also presented on August the 5th, which speaks to the continued declaration of local and state emergency for Prince George's County. And it speaks to the health concern and other data that may be available for the citizens. But as of right now, August 30, the buildings are open.
And will there be a message on our website pertaining to the reopening of our building?
Yes, sir. It will come out tomorrow.
Okay.
And the staff has been preparing themselves as well, because I know that there's still a lot of concern because there isn't a mandate right now for everyone to be vaccinated. And due to HIPAA requirements, we can't actually ask. That's why the face mask requirement in accordance to the county, regardless of vaccination status, is required indoors. But yes, tomorrow we'll make sure that there is a formal message sent out across the city.
Thank you, Mayor Cross. Councilman Fareed, any other discussion or points on this topic? No? Any other council members before we move to the next topic? Okay. Councilman Herring, Subregion 4 plan.
Yes, and I'm going to take Subregion 4 and zoning rewrite at the same time because they both work in conjunction with each other.
Okay.
Some years ago, the county every so many years the county does what they call a subregion plan, and they basically spell out how they want the county to grow and how they're going to break it up, how they want to see different sections of the county grow, and how they're going to increase density, decrease density, improve transportation, and increase economic development. So they did a Subregion 4 plan, and I've shared that with the council members. And on that Subregion 4 plan, on page 300 of that plan, if you have it with you, they speak on Glen Arden and MLK, Martin Luther King Highway. Well, their plan for the city of Glen Arden is to run apartment buildings from Smith's Barbershop all the way down to the 7-Eleven. They want to rezone that area to what they call residential multifamily. And so, you got businesses there now, but if those businesses close down or go out of business and somebody want to do something there later on, it could only be multifamily residential. I have two problems with that. One is I can't see running apartments from Barlow Road all the way down to the 7-Eleven on both sides of the highway in wards 1 and wards 2. It's going to have an adverse effect on both the citizens in those wards because of the traffic that'll come off, that'll come out of those dwellings, as well as it'll take away from the aesthetic view that the citizens have currently. The citizens in my ward will be looking at the back of apartment buildings. We're down in the ditch like in Ward 1, and the same thing in Ward 2, especially over there in the Frost Home Division. So you build apartment buildings along there anywhere from 4 to 8 feet, 4 to 8 stories high. All you're going to be looking at is the back of a building. And that's not what we have now. I don't think it's right for the county to flood our community again with a bunch of multifamily housing, a lot of apartments. Again, we just got rid of a main, huge apartment complex that had over almost 500, almost 600 units in it that took forever for us to get it torn down. The county was not very helpful with giving us resources to patrol it and make sure it was safe. I think that we really need to look at this and with the sub-region plan and the plan that they have, they're moving forward with it, because when you look at the zoning rewrite, which is what I gave you those 2 color copies, you see on the zoning rewrite that the existing designation for those areas that I'm speaking of is MUI, which is mixed use infill. So that gives the developer a lot of options for residential, commercial, which is what we're looking at. Some little bit of residential, a little bit of commercial. Commercial tends to bring in more revenue and it's less costly when it comes down to public safety. Apartments tend to increase your public safety budget because you have a lot more instances of issues in apartment buildings. And if you look on the proposed zoning map that I sent you, you would see that they changed it all to residential multifamily, which are apartment buildings. We really need to move on this because they're actually coming down to the wire on actually approving the designation for the zoning rewrite. So I shared this with the mayor, and I shared the same documentation with the mayor, and the mayor and his council need to come and need to speak out on this and say, we do not want that done. We want to, if that's what the council's wishes are, and the mayor's and the council's wishes are, is that we don't want apartment buildings along 704, for over a mile. And those apartment buildings can be anywhere from, like I say, 4 to 8 stories tall. I think, like I said, I think it's something we just need to look at, and we need to address that issue, really quickly. They're still having hearings on the zoning rewrite throughout the county. And I think we as a body, as an elected body, need to send something down on what we wish our property to be designated, because a number of those lots are city property. And it's commercial. And so it's zone MUI, so we can. It's easier for a developer to develop it if they have options with commercial and residential versus straight residential. And I gave you the definition of what the MUI is. MUI, mixed field use, is the same as MXT, mixed use transportation. But they're saying that we can get residential and commercial out of it if they label it residential multifamily and put commercial at the bottom of the buildings. Then they're saying that would meet the qualifications for your commercial development. But we ran into that same issue over in Glennon Hills. Glennon Hills was supposed to have a little commercial section over there in at the corner of Evarts and Brightsea Road. And the developers went down and talked the planning board into scrapping that and making it all residential. So I think we as a body need to voice our opinion on this. Like I said, my residents have already said they don't want it. I've talked to residents, especially those that live right there on Church Street, on Piedmont, who will be directly affected by apartment buildings coming up right in front of their homes. And also on the other side with Smith's Barbershop, the church, the same thing. The people over there in Frost and back there by the wreck going down Glen Parkway, you're going to see the back of an apartment building. And like I say, the density that they're putting in this space is entirely too much for our community. It's entirely too much density. And we'll have to, it's just going to, I think it's going to take away from the city of Glen Arden. And that's what I see. So I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. I think we really do need to move forward on this and make some decisions on where we stand on this, because they have not heard from the city of Glen Arden yet. but yet they're rezoning our property. And like I say, big sections of that property is owned by Glen Arden, the city of Glen Arden. And my thing is, you know, we need to do what's in the best interest of the citizens in this community. So I just wanted to bring that up and expound on that and just voice my concern about what they're trying to do in our city.
Thank you, Councilman Harry. Excuse me. Councilwoman Jones.
Thank you, Council President Curtis. But if you look at page 302 of this proposal, it gives you a summary of the illustrated strategies and elements, and underneath there, especially looking at number 9, it says rezone and redevelop the commercial sites backing into Martin Luther King into new single-family detached residential. Number 10, redevelop existing multifamily apartments along Hayes Street and Glen Arden Parkway into a mix of multifamily residential and single-family homes. Develop new infill multifamily homes east of Johnson Avenue. So I understand part of what Mr. Herring is suggesting, but once again, like I said, if you read the summary of illustration and strategy elements, it gives you it doesn't say that these are all going to be apartment buildings. They want to redevelop the commercial properties and also redevelop the existing apartments that's already there. And another thing that I would suggest as a council, that maybe we can get the engineer or not the developer, but the person that's coming up with this strategy to do a walkthrough with us and let's look at what they're proposing and how they're proposing. I think it's better when you walk through and look at and they tell you, okay, this site right here, we're thinking of putting apartment buildings. And then maybe when they look at the site, because I'm sure they're looking at only the aerial view from a computer and thinking that it may be bigger or smaller than what it is. And they're thinking of these things. But if we do a physical walkthrough to find out what it is they're actually want to present to the city of Glen Arden as a redevelopment and uplift, it might be a better strategy as to understanding what it is the county is trying to do. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilman Harry.
Yes, I'd like to follow up on that. Actually, this is the problem where we are right now, because Ms. Jones expressed the same thing last time and she was completely wrong. Like I said, if they zoning it residential multifamily, that's what you're going to get there. Now she's talking about they're talking about putting single family homes behind the apartments. And if you look at the illustration that they submitted, you will see apartments along 704, and right behind it on the side of the recreation center, they have some single family detached homes. That's what they're talking about when they're talking about the single family detached homes. That's why I'm saying we need to move on this, because when they're showing us exactly what they're going to do. The illustration is showing when you look looking east down 704, you see apartments on both sides of the highway, and on the side with the recreation center, the big field area, you see a row of houses right there. Those are the single family detached homes. So no matter, they're going to put single family, they weren't talking about single detached homes, but they're talking about lining 704 with apartment buildings. And we need to move on it. That we don't need to walk through anything, because they're telling us what they're going to do. The zone that they put on there, once they put that zone on there, that's all you can build on there. And no developer is going to take the time or the money to get the zone changed, not in you know, to build something else. It's really costly to the developer to go to the planning board, get an attorney, and submit papers to get the zone changed from what it is to something else. It's best to make sure they address it. We address that on the front end. And like I said, they're telling us what they're going to do. The map shows they're going to do residential multifamily along 704. They're going to put single family homes behind the apartment buildings. And, you know, again, we're going to have to deal with an influx of traffic and other issues with these apartments there. And it's going to take away from the aesthetic and of the citizens that's living here now. No one should have to look at the back of a building when they've seen trees and everything else all their life.
Councilwoman Fareed.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Herring. my fundamental issue and concern is why the city of Glen Arden is not at the table when these things are even being developed and thought about. Why is it being presented to us for us to react to versus kind of a collaborative effort in developing? I don't know if that is how things have been, but I think, the city of Glen Arden is a city. We are a municipality, and the spaces that are within our borders are ours, and we should very much so be at the forefront of making any decisions about what's happening in the city. So one, Councilman Herring, is the meeting on September 13th, is that the zoning meeting that we need to make sure that we're voicing our concerns at?
And we give comment, we can either give written or oral comments at that
Okay.
meeting.
And that one is a pre-registration. I believe the deadline for pre-registering for that meeting is the 9th, or it might be today.
Right.
I thought it was today, but it might be the 9th. But
I think just generally we need to address that. There are some other things that have happened, like when the county came with federal representation to the Glen Arden Hills, and the city of Glen Arden was not included in that. So I'm not sure why that's happening or who we need to contact to make sure things like this don't happen anymore. But certainly when it comes to developing our area, adding more housing, which means more people, and all of the issues that Councilman Herring has pointed out, we should be, helping to determine what that is, not reacting after the county has come up with their plan. Okay.
Councilman Hairston?
I think Ms. Mayor Crow's hand was up before mine. I just want to check and see if she got some comments before I do.
I'm sorry, Mayor Cross. Please
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilman Harrison. I read the zoning proposal the same as Councilman Herring, in fact, but I will bring out that on page 300, I do appreciate one piece of this document, which speaks to an additional civic facility that would be anchored to the existing Glen Arden Municipal Center. So it's an opportunity to expand the municipal center. That piece I like. I do find that we need to find ourselves more frequently at these tables. And what I've discovered is we receive tons of letters. Every time there's a development around our borders, we receive a letter. And that is if they're going to build a new 7-Eleven in Greenbelt, what's going to happen in Cheverly, which is on the next plan of development for Prince George's 2035, along with New Carrollton, along with College Park. And you've already seen the changes that are happening there in Suitland. So the September 9th meeting is the time that we need to turn in our comments for the Cheverly and New Carrollton efforts that they're building up in reference to their 2035 strategy for evolving those border towns for the city of Glen Arden. Now, that meeting then will happen on mid-September, around the 15th. So while it doesn't impact us directly, it indirectly impacts us. So for the city manager, my goal is to have the city manager attending these meetings for the purposes of just the atmospherics of what's changing around us. Councilwoman Fareed, you'll recall in February, we attended the site map, if you will, for Woodmore Overlook, Woodmore Commons area. We attended that way too late. So we attended during the development phase where all we could say was this was a pretty design. So what Councilman Herring is bringing out is adequate, and it is perfect timing that we need to address. I too have severe concern about the MLK rebranding as a tree-lined boulevard. Now, what that essentially means is, you may recall the previous city council having discussions about bike lanes being put along the Martin Luther King Boulevard area. Well, all that takes in highway space. So you could potentially actually lose a lane of traffic, if you will, to put those tree-lined boulevards in. So that's another concern that I highlight. Not only will you have the housing change with multifamily housing, which is not a problem, except it's on one of our main streets. Like the Glen Parkway is a main street. MLK 704 is a main street. So when you come to the city of Glen Arden, you see the butts of houses. So that's a concern because you lose your city center. And then the other concern is policing. So with more multifamily housing on our green space, that doesn't give us the landmass, if you will, to actually bring in a bigger police force to police and properly secure our environment. So that has been my concern in reading this zoning proposal. And thank you, Councilman Herring, for bringing it to my attention. Unlike when you're annexing other independents into your city, you increase your ability to also bring in a bigger police force. As of right now, we would be held to our 19+4. Oh, thank you.
Councilman Harrison?
So I was pretty much just going to say that I agree with Fareed and Councilwoman Fareed and Councilman Herring about what they were saying, and I think that it'll look terrible and it is show inconsistency. It'll look really inconsistent, and I agree with them about the traffic. So, but everybody pretty much said everything that I was going to say, but that's pretty much what I was going to say. Other than we should just make sure that this information is getting passed to the citizens that's not on these meetings and able to hear exactly what's going on in their community. Because I don't know, but that's not having the cable station, like just making sure that everybody get this information so we can also, see what they think about it.
Thank you, Councilman Hairston. Councilwoman Guillaume?
Sure. Thank you, Council President. Echoing what has already been stated before me, I wanted to just ask one thing for Councilman Herring. I don't know if it's possible, but if it is there any way that you can provide the link to the zoning and the rewrites, if possible? I know some citizens are asking about it, so just wanted to know if we can have that, if possible. The second thing that I wanted to just state, it again, similar to what others have stated, I've been trying to look through and I can't find it myself, but trying to see when or who was part of this community assessment plan, because usually when you have these things coming up with what's going to happen in a particular region, the community is supposed to be involved. So again, I see it as a form of for lack of a better word, disrespect, when the community members themselves are not brought in on these conversations, and we are then, left to deal with whatever comes our way. So just wanted to put those two things out there. If anybody who does get a link to this sees or finds a community assessment plan, please don't hesitate to send it our way as well.
So I have a concern with this as well. I too was on that February call for Woodmore Commons, and a consistent theme on that call was that they were allowing people to speak, but it was too late. They had already gone through with their zoning, and there was nothing that anyone can say except for voice their frustrations. At the end of frustrations, the board would say, well, thank you for your comment, but basically we're moving forward with what we had planned, and that's because we missed the zoning rewrite meeting, which allowed for them to go ahead with what they were going to do. The concern I have is the letters that we're receiving. Where are we receiving them? Because I don't think it's trickling down to the right people. So I think that we need to monitor that. So when we do receive those letters, there's a mass communication to the council, definitely Mayor Cross, that we can work together to show up at these zoning meetings and voice our opinion, and also get out on the streets and make our citizens aware via cable, website, but also getting out there, going door to door, just like we did in campaigning, to make sure that everyone is involved and everyone's aware of what's going on in our city. I think we have to protect what is ours and make sure we always have a seat at the table. And Councilman Harris, I'm sorry, Councilman Herring, I think just posted something in the chat. Councilman Herring?
Yeah, that's a sub-region 4 master plan that I'm referencing. It's a lot you have to go through, so let me see if I can narrow it down for everybody, if I can find the actual section that I got, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Councilman Guillaume?
This is just more of a comment, not a question, but I think it's also what's been brought up right now, not that anything else that has been brought up isn't important, but what's being brought up right now and discussed is extremely important, because what we do come as legislators, and administrators, what typically happens is citizens will see these things popping up, things just showing up. We had, months ago, people talking about the tobacco stores popping up, not realizing that these are things that we as a city council or administration don't even know about. So Councilman Herring and council as a whole, thank you for bringing this up. And although citizens who are on this call, although it's a lot of reading, I would implore you to please read it, because then you'll have more context of what's really going on. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilman Herring?
This is one of the biggest issues is that it seems like we've been dropped off as people of record, the city as people of record. I think it's going maybe just to the mayor's office. Used to be the council and the mayor were both people of record, and we would get these notices. Since I've been on the council, I haven't seen these notices coming through. I've always asked about it, and it seems like we were never people of record. We need to make sure that we're labeled, we're signed up as people of record down at the county parking plan, and so that we will get these notices on time, because we should have got notices for everything that's going on around the city, and we're not getting them. And that's the issue.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Mayor Cross?
Thank you, Councilman Herring, and that's exactly where I was going. We all need to become people of record. So we'll work with the administration to get us on that list to make sure that when these letters come out, we get them. What I have subscribed to is Prince George's Events, Maryland Department of Budget, Prince George's County Media, all of the various Prince George's sites. So I'm getting a lot of this funneled by email. That's how I'm kind of staying informed. But I would also implore the citizens to read the Prince George's 2035 plan, as well as County Executive also Brooks Prince George's Forward, because each one of those plans is the detailed orchestration of what's happening in the zoning. So they all go hand in hand. So your first tip off is going to be Prince George's 2035, where it talks to how they're actually changing the lay and the schematic of the land. And most of it is based on transportation and building transient zones, safe walking cities, which defines what we're now seeing in our Zone 4 proposal. So those are going to be critical for the citizens to download, and they're all online.
Mayor Cross, can we possibly add that to our website for so when people come to our website to figure out what's happening in the city, that they can also see what's happening in the county and how that relates to our city?
Sure can, no problem.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Oh, that's a thumbs up. I thought that was a hand.
And that was just I was saying I agreed. I didn't mean to say, yes, we'll do it, because I'm not Mayor Cross. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Herring, are we good on this topic?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 2020 census data and impact on wards. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes. So many of you know that there was a census that was conducted last year, as there is every 10 years. The city data is available on the US Census website. You can just type in Glen Arden and it will come up with information. But my question is more for Mayor Cross on whether or not we received any data from the state. I am a little concerned with our ability to consume the data. It's a new format, different than it was in 2010. And I'm not sure if we have the right technology to consume that data so that we can really analyze it and see how we're impacted by it. The data, I believe, is due on September 16th to the state. They gave out an initial kind of high-level format, which is what you'll see on the website, interesting demographic, but we'll get more detailed data. I'm presuming that that data will be broken down more by streets and kind of more at that granular level. And with that data, I don't know what was done 10 years ago by the council, if that data was looked at in as to, you know, how the ward representation was impacted, and or even how the wards are zoned. And I'm not sure if we should be looking at that 2020 data now, given that in 2010 there was no Woodmore Town Center at Glen Arden, and now there is, which obviously brings more people to the city, and just ensuring that our representation is equal. Meaning, you know, if Ward 3 is now the most populated, you know, let's make sure that we're not, that Ward 3, and although I'm the Ward 3 representative, let's make sure that Ward 3 is not dominating the city. You know, that we should have fair and equal representation across the city. So I think we should look at that data, but again, I'm concerned about our ability to even consume the data and analyze it. Mayor Frost?
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. And yes, it is quite the task. I was just looking at that today, in fact. What we can do, they've got several fact sheets on how the data was actually compiled. And maybe we can use some of that for our decomposition of the data. But you're absolutely correct. The website is a little daunting when you first look at it. But what we have noticed that there is a growth in our ethnic populations across the city. So we're more normalizing, if you will. As we're looking at the zoning, their zoning, my concern obviously was when they had the, this summer, they had a zoning issue, if you will, with our schools. And Judge Sylvania Woods, as well as Glen Arden Elementary, was part of that program. And you may recall we sent out information asking citizens to be at the table when it came down to how they were rezoning and redistricting our schools based on, obviously, the census data and the amount of demographics that are around our schools. So we can definitely look at this and breaking it down into something that's more digestible. I don't know that this data will allow us to explore it to the street level, but we can definitely try and pull it closer to the ward level. But that's my intent to look at that, if you will, over the course of this week to see what we can do and put that as well on our website, because it is part of, you know, how we vote, if you will, in county elections, which 2022 brings forward an election year, not just at the county, but at the state level, all the way up to governor. So it's really key relative to the census and redistricting the data at the state legislative districts as well. So we'll definitely take a look at it and see how we can make this more digestible for all of our citizens. And I know we're all returning to the television station. My intent is to do many segments of communication. So we can take this little blocks of information and communicate it in like mini commercials, which is more digestible than saying, hey, citizens, go look at a 1,000-page document on the internet. So that's where we want to go. The tabs that are there are very specific, but they are talking to changes by state legislative district plans. And so we definitely want to bring that down into our ward system as a minimum if we can't get it down to streets as you requested.
Thank you. And for the council members or even just for people who have been here in the state of Glen Arden much longer than I have, do you know if in the last census, if the data was even considered for ward representation, or has it pretty much been the same throughout? I don't know. Councilman Herring, I think you've been on the council long.
The data was not considered in 2010. The wards were changed just to change them. It was not looked at nor considered.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Councilman Fareed, is that it? Any other discussion from other council members? Okay. We've touched on the zoning rewrite. The parliamentarian for the council, Councilman Fareed.
Yes, I just I didn't even get a chance to take a breath. I just wanted to know what our plans were. I know that the previous council had deferred on getting a parliamentarian in place, but what is our plan for getting a parliamentarian? And for citizens, a parliamentarian will just be someone who will help us in making sure that the meetings are following our council rules as well as Robert's rules of order. So I think that would be helpful for us. I'm looking at you, sorry, Council President Curtis.
Yeah, so I think we'll touch more on that. I sent out an email to the council on their availability to meet this Thursday for a closed meeting, but I don't think I received anything back. But I think that I would like to talk about that, but I think that links into our council clerk, deputy clerk, and how we're going to balance that out as it relates to our budget. And so, happy to touch on that, but I think that probably better suited when we have our closed session, when we talk about personnel actions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council members want to join in on this topic or have any comments? Okay, hearing none. Councilman Herring, Shred Day.
Yes, I just want to bring this up because normally this city council does at least 2 or 3 shred days a year. We haven't done any this year, and I know a lot of people were asking me about when we're going to do shred day, So I just wanted to move forward. I was talking to Councilman Harrison, and we are trying to move forward with doing a shred day sometime soon, at least one. I mean, because we haven't done any this year. I mean, it costs about $500 to do shred and just have people come out and drop this personal information off to be shredded. So I just wanted to bring that up and say we'd like to look forward to doing something like that soon before it gets too cold. And that's it.
Okay. Do you want to hit that up?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, sure will.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor Cross.
With the Shred Day, it was greatly appreciated that you also did the clothing donation. Perhaps could we do that with Green Dot or, veterans of foreign wars or something, so that we can also do kind of the shift over as we're getting out of the summer and spring coming into the fall. It's an awesome time to do some closet reassessment as well.
I mean, yeah, we can add that on to as one of the features. I mean, it seems like it's always I mean, people in Glennon are very generous with that program. They donate a lot. They usually fill up a truck. So, I mean, we can add that to it too. So that'd be good. All right. Okay.
And one thing to add, speaking of shredding, so I've been through the municipal center. There's a lot of paper in our offices. So I think that if we're going to have shred day, the city can lead by example by cleaning up our own space, filing what needs to be filed, putting soft copies where they need to be so we can actually shred all of the paper that is in the municipal center. And it is a lot. So I think it'll be good not only for our citizens, but for our government to lead in that effort to make sure that we're cleaning out our files and giving our citizens the ability to do the same. Okay, opera funds. So that's my topic. Council members are now aware, and I'm pretty sure Mayor Cross is up to date as she has just been sworn in, that the first half of opera funds have been delivered to the city of Glenarden for $2.1 million. The next step in this phase will be to develop a plan of how we're going to use these funds. There's something that have another planning session to talk through this. But I think that our plan has to be balanced, something that we can do in a short term to help relieve people who have been hurt by this pandemic, and also long term, what can we do that can have a long term benefit for our city. So I think that we need to get started with that, and I'll take the lead with that and work with Mayor Cross to develop a plan. I know there are a lot of ideas out there. Councilwoman Fareed has solicited advice or ideas from Ward 3 residents, and I know that she had a lot of feedback from her residents from her ward. We have Ward 1 and Ward 2, so we're looking to hear back from them as well. And interested to hear Councilman Hairston, if he's heard anything, or Councilman Herring, if you guys have heard anything from your wards particularly. But that's something that we have to get started on, because I think it's going to be really important for our citizens. So like I said, I'll take the lead on that and work with Mayor Cross to get that going. I'm pretty sure Councilman Fareed is going to be in that as well. So just to let the citizens know that we do have the first tranche of those funds already in our bank account. And I do think, Mayor Cross, that and I've spoken with the treasurer, but this is on your side, that we need to set up a separate bank account for those funds, so we don't commingle those funds, and have a better tracking system for reporting financials when it's time for us to report on those.
Thank you for that, Councilman Curtis. And in fact, in this monies, we have the option to hire someone to specifically manage and watch these funds. So once we develop a plan, we can put someone on the contract for the 5 years that this money is eligible to be spent, and their entire purpose in life under that contract would be to help us spend it, to properly record how the money has been used, keep up with all the receipts and expenditures, and follow up on the work, if you will. For example, like we can do stormwater infrastructure, we can do cybersecurity. Having been hit in 2017, 2018 with the cyber attack, the city did lose a lot of its electronic data. So don't shred too much on shred day. But that's something that we can actually look at too for cybersecurity, which is something that's lacking across the state, not just the county. And we can even use this money to look at, our homeless situation that's in the city and all of that, but our hospitality, if we want to look at building up our public sector, where we do replace some lost revenues, and even counseling programs for small businesses. The beauty of this ARP money, the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 money, is it affords us, if you will, because coronavirus took such a stab at the population, even here in the city of Glenarden, we can even attach it to mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment. I mean, the sky is the limit on what this can do for us as a city. And I believe that it will be worth our weight in gold to actually look at a person to personally handle these funds, what you said, a separate bank account so that we can watch it, effectively report on it, and actually do some real good on the ground.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Cross. And I also been contacted by our the water company that handles our water bills in this region, and spoke with the government relations lady there. And we, there are people in our city that are hurting from this pandemic who have been furloughed or laid off. That has put particularly residents in the city of Glenarden about $500,000 in arrears in their water bills. And we can use these funds to help pay off those water bills for our citizens. And we just have to effectively set up a program, which I've looked at Fairfax and another city in our area, how they structured theirs. So looking forward to work with the council on that and how we effectively set that up to help our citizens, if that's a way that we decide that we're going to go with these funds in conjunction with the administration, Mayor Cross. Councilman Gilliam?
Yes, this is more about, liking the energy and knowing the ideas are coming up. I do want to say that if we can try to really, really tackle this much sooner than later, we want to do it right, of course. But I do know that there are some citizens that I have spoken to, specifically some in Ward 2 and Ward 1, where the CDC eviction protections have become an issue for rental housing. So we do, if there's a way that we can assist that population, that would be very advantageous to them utilizing these funds. So that's all I wanted to share.
Okay. Thank you. And Mayor Cross, did you have your hand up or no?
Mr. President.
No, I didn't. Thank you. But
Okay.
I will say that the key to, particularly as we're dealing with supporting citizens that have experienced hardship during the coronavirus pandemic, is really key. And the administration would be grateful to the council for helping us compile a sufficient list by wards and the need. We don't have to know, all the explicit details, but just know by ward that there is a certain need. And then perhaps we can then disperse that to the ward rep to effectively handle that discreetly with the citizens. But we can discuss how to do that best, but a list would be best. And that way we will have a clear understanding of the expenditure we're talking about.
Thank you, Mayor Cross. Councilman Harry?
Yes, and as you say, I know you're heading it in the mayor, and I just want to say that we just keep on pushing forward, because I actually talked to Congressman Brown a couple of weeks back, and he was asking, he's like, have you started using your money yet? He's like, I said, no, we're looking at programs like now. Just remember, you only got 3 years to use it. So, we don't want to come down to the wire again like we did, with the last pot of money. So, I think we all need to just, like I say, get an idea and get an idea of what we need and talk to our constituents and find out what the city needs as a body, as a group, so that we can go ahead and move forward and everything will move smoothly through this. So like I said, 3 years will come and go really quick. You'd be amazed how fast it'll come. We'll be there next year doing this, doing the same thing we did with the last pot if we don't keep a focus on what we need to do and the people that we need to help, because we definitely, this is money that can help out a lot of people.
Well, no, and I know that they'll involve us meeting more frequently to get this done. So you guys will be seeing some more emails from me as it relates to availability to meet, so we can push this forward. Okay. 2 additional items were Mr. Herring will go. I'm sorry, Councilman Herring, we'll go with you first, since it was originally on your list, election ballots.
Yes, a couple of months back when we had our meeting, I did ask the council about getting copies of the ballots. I asked council, to reach out to the attorney, find out what he says, because I'm actually entitled to them. Under the Mlk Public Information Act, it allows me to get copies of any piece of paper really in the city of in the federal government, in the state government or the municipal government, as long as it's not something personnel or something or has an exception, and these ballots don't have an exception because they don't deal with personnel, medical, or anything else, legal, or anything else. So I just need to get find out where the council is going. I mean, my thing is this: my goal is not to try to get somebody fined or have somebody fined $1,000. My goal is to get some documentation that I and any other citizen that asks for it are entitled to under the state laws of Maryland. I mean, we all took that oath to uphold the laws in the state of Maryland. And, you know, I'm entitled to it as well as any citizen online or in the city who requests it under the Maryland Public Information Act. So I just want to know where we are with this. Again, like I said, it's not trying to get nobody, it's not trying to get nobody fined. I just want to get access to what I, as a citizen of the state of Maryland and a citizen in the city of Glen, Arden, am entitled to under the laws of the state of Maryland, which we all swore to uphold. So, I mean, we can set it out.
You put yourself on mute, Councilman Harry.
Sorry, I said, I mean, if we want to wait till next week to make a decision on it after some conversation with the attorney to find out what's what, we can do that. It should be a light agenda. We have no legislation, so I just wanted to bring it up.
And Councilman Harry, these votes have voters' name on them, correct?
No, they do not. They're anonymous. All ballots are anonymous. And if a council member knows they're not anonymous, I want to know how that council member would know that. Because my ballot has no name on it. I'm looking at my ballot right now and I have no name on my ballot. There's no identifiers on my ballot.
So you want the actual ballots?
I want a copy of the ballots. I don't want the actual ballot. I want a copy of the ballots that were cast in that election.
Okay. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Council President. Those ballots have two control numbers on them that can, I'm sure if need be, can be traced back probably to the persons that they are. Under the Maryland Public Information Act, there is recourse that Mr. Herring, or I'm sorry, that Councilman Herring can use to, if he feels like he's not being able to receive those ballots. And that recourse being going to the the state of Maryland and filing a request to have those ballots released to him through circuit court. And speaking to the attorney when I was council president concerning this, they had already made a decision that it is not the council's reason to interfere with the ballots. The election committee is a different committee. Being a candidate in the election, it's not up to me to tell the election board how to do what they do. It's already been determined by the attorney that it was the election board's decision to make that. The election board has made the decision that they will not release the ballots to Mr. Councilman Herring. And like I said, the Maryland Public Information Act, in the vestibule of the City Hall, outside of the mayor's office, is the application to the Maryland Public Information Act to get information. And it also has on that information what the recourse is if you don't get what you want. Thank you.
President, may I?
Councilman Harry?
Yes, Ms. Jones is right. I can take it to court and I will more than likely win. And the city will have to pay for my legal fees. Also, Ms. Jones is absolutely wrong with my recourse. My recourse is actually first to take it to the Attorney General's office and file it with the Ombudsman for the state of Maryland and let him look at it and say whether I should have it or whether I shouldn't have it. And that is not going to the circuit court. And if he says I can have it, then I can also proceed forward with saying that the city denied me this information, especially since they did not respond back to me in 30 days. So I'm not trying to go through all of that because I know I'm going to end up. I'm going to end up getting these ballots. I'm telling you that right now because there's not like Ms. Jones. If Ms. Jones says there's identifiers on there, I wonder who told her that. So why would she get information that no one else has? Because I'm looking at my ballot and I couldn't tell you what those numbers mean to save my life. So obviously she's getting information that she's privy to from somebody on the election board. obviously, because I don't know anything about it. Do any other council member know about those numbers on the ballots? Because I don't know anything about the numbers on the ballots. I see numbers on the ballots. I don't know what they mean. It's an anonymous ballot. No one knows who voted on those ballots. And you can't say no one knows, anybody knows who voted on those ballots, because those numbers do not correspond to a voter ID. And if you know that they correspond to a voter ID, who, Ms. Jones, have you been talking to and getting information from on these ballots that no one else has information from?
So, thank you, Councilman Herring. Just want to remind everybody, and it's challenging for me too, especially after calling Kat for so long or Erica for so long, that we could refer to each other as councilman and councilwoman. That'll be greatly appreciated. But that's not that I did not hear what you said, Councilman Herring. I just noticed that you referred to Councilwoman Jones as Mrs. Jones a couple of times. But so we could get in the habit, let's practice that, because I know I need practice too. So.
Well, actually, Mr. President, it's acceptable to call me the council member or Mr. or Mrs., one of the two, which is still acceptable.
Okay.
Either way, because I really.
You put yourself on mute again.
I don't care whether they call me Mr. Herring or Councilman Herring. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not on to titles, so.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Councilman Ferguson, I saw your hand.
I just wanted to comment. It was my understanding, not necessarily this particular election, but just ballots in general, that they do have control numbers on there, and there is some way that it's two. Actually, there are two numbers on each ballot, and one on the front and one on the back, and they're not the same, but they are identifiers. I mean, even working in the federal government, they are identifiers. Someone can identify in the government. There's a way to identify the voter. That's just what happens even in the United States. And working in the government, people can be identified. So I don't think, I would just say for myself, I noticed it also, and it's not anything that someone told me or I had to research. So I don't think that's something that Councilwoman Jones just knew on her own, or someone, definitely not the election board. I mean, just in any election, if you notice, I've always noticed that they're even before I was even an elected official, I always noticed that their numbers, identify numbers on the ballots and on a lot of things. So I would say, I may be wrong, but I would say somebody in this world can identify how I voted if they really wanted to. That's all I have to say.
Councilman Herring, so I think it'll help me a little bit, we can wait till we talk with the attorney and we can hold this to our closed session, but it'll help me in with my decision on the reason behind the ballots. Is it just because you want ballots? Do you think that there was something nefarious going on, or that the ballots weren't counted correctly, or because I mean, my concern is someone who was on the ballot now having the ballots themselves. For what purpose? Whether you were a council member or not, that piece is my concern. And if you can help me out with that would be great. Because I mean, if you're entitled to them, like I said, we'll speak with the attorney, then you're entitled to them. But for my vote for it to be okay, yes, let's give Councilman Herring the votes. I have to have an understanding of why I'm voting yes or why I'm voting no. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, I guess, I mean, the one thing with the Mlk Public Information Act is that any citizen can request information for any reason at all. I really don't have to give a reason, but my issue is that I would just like to see the ballots. I would like to get a copy of the ballots because I'm not saying nothing's wrong. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I just would like to get a copy of the ballots for my own information and for my own satisfaction. I just want to get a copy of the ballots. Just like if I emailed up there and I said, I want to get a copy of a report that the council generated. You can't tell me no, you got to give it to me. You got to give it to any citizen that requested. It's not a matter of anybody doing anything wrong. It's a matter of me being allowed to have that information, me being a citizen in the state of Maryland, state of Maryland says you're entitled to this information under our laws, you
Okay.
know. So I mean, that's all it is. Now, like I say, we can speak to the attorney on it. As for identifiers, I still don't believe that there's no identifying numbers on it to say who voted for who, because that's not an anonymous ballot.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, you know, we can just discuss it, like you say, when we meet with the attorney and do that so we don't have to drag this meeting out.
Okay. So I saw 3 hands, but I saw Councilwoman Fareed's first.
So I attended MML training and I attended a Public Information Act session. I did ask a question specifically on whether these ballots were part of the Public Information Act and could be requested and obtained, and the answer is yes. My, I guess, concern about what, I'm not exactly sure what we're voting on as a council. So I would like to understand from the attorney what the council actually needs to do. You know, as Mr. Herring is saying, he's correct, he can obtain the ballots, but I think the procedure to go to get the information is submitting the application and getting that. I think there's also some element of how reasonable it is to provide that data. You know, what effort would be required on the election boards for them, and if it's that we need to vote on the money for them to be able to do that because we have to pay them to make copies, to redact any information, then, you know, that's something else. But right now, I'm not really sure what we would be voting on because the ballots, he can obtain them.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President?
Councilman Herring?
Just so you know, I did submit an application to the city within the time frame that I needed to. So, I mean, I do have that. So it was submitted to the city. The application was submitted and my request was written on the application of what I wanted from the election board. So just for the record.
And Councilman Herring, was that application submitted with the last council or this council?
It was submitted to Chief O'Donnell. And I think it was with this council because because the council does not deal with that. It goes through the executive assistant.
Oh, okay.
It goes to the executive assistant. So I submitted it to the executive assistant and she was told to walk it slow. So that's another thing in and of itself. So.
Okay, because I was going to say I haven't seen the application, and like I said, I don't have any problems with you getting it. It was just an understanding of sort of what Councilwoman Fareed was talking about. What are we voting on? But if you're entitled to it, then you're entitled to it. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes, I'm not going to take long, and I want to respect whoever's coming after me. I was just going to basically say that just in the interest of time, if we can agree to just table this until the attorney, it's been stated before, until the attorney advises us, we can keep it moving. If it's legal, then I want to just say, if it's legal, I have no issues. I will have no issue supporting it. So I just think we're just going to keep going around in a circle. And if the hearing needs it and if the attorney says whatever, then let's go. But that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, agreed. But out of respect for the 2 people who have their hands up, are you guys in agreement to table it? Councilwoman Jones?
I just have a quick comment, and that comment is I went down to the Prince George's County Election Board and asked for the ballots, and they told me I had to go to the state of Maryland. That is something that they have never given anyone, will not, because the ballot is a right, a privilege of people that want to vote, and giving your ballot or how you voted is your personal information. So
thank you, Council.
They would not give those ballots.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Mayor Cross.
Thank you, Council President Curtis. This is an opportunity for that Section 711, which is the preservation of ballots. Ballots are preserved for at least 2 years following the date of the election. I would ask for Councilman Herring if he could forward his submission back to the administration, CC Cross at cityofglenarden.org. Then that way we have in the current administration a copy. Obviously, many of the personnel that you've spoken to in this topic have departed the city.
I sure will send it. I'll send it to you tonight or tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Mhm.
Thank you, Mayor Cross and Councilman Herring. And since we are tabling this topic to we meet with the attorney, then we're on our last discussion topic, which is the JHA Tenant Council and Community Meetings. Councilwoman Gillian.
Yes, thank you, Council President Curtis. Hopefully this won't take long, but just wanted to be transparent. So for a little over 3.5 years, I served on the Glen Arden Housing Authority located in Ward 2. So I am privy to some of their financial situations and a lot of the work that they do in regards to the community as a whole. I also know that for those who are not aware of Glen Arden Housing Authority and the demographic that it serves, they serve very low to no income individuals. And with that being the case, I do know that right now, because of COVID, where they typically would have their meetings, has been limited as far as space, because a lot of the citizens don't feel comfortable, rightfully so, coming to tenant council meetings or community meetings as a whole in such a compact space. One of the things, and I believe Councilwoman Fareed mentioned the Woodmore location when she was speaking to Ms. Schultz and all of us on this call. But at the same time, one of the things that I have also been privy to in regards to demographic is there are a lot of seniors that are there. And so having a meeting, even though some of us drive, at Woodmore Town Center is good, but I'm not Woodmore Town Center, yes, the community room at Woodmore Town Center. At the same time, it's not advantageous for those who are limited with transportation. So with that being the case, I do know that there are rules for the gold room usage. And I know that chapter 92 of the code, I believe it's 92-2, specifically speaks to the authority of the council to administer gold room operations and make exceptions. So wanted to actually bring it to the council if there is a way for us to actually have the Glen Arden Housing Authority utilize the gold room at no cost. I do know that public forums and town hall meetings are held, officials are technically allowed to hold rooms there at hold meetings there at no charge, or events at no charge. These are nothing against our other elected officials, but they do have means to a certain extent. But here it is, Glen Arden Housing Authority, who's our neighbor, our community members, limited means, need a place to meet, and trying to see if we can at least have them utilize the gold room for COVID spacing requirements for free. And so that's it.
Sorry. Thank you, Councilwoman Guillaume. So yeah, I think we'll take that into consideration because we can't vote on anything at this meeting. But thank you for bringing up that topic. It seems, reasonable enough for me. But it'll be up to the rest of the council to agree on it. Councilman Herring, I see that you're.
Yeah, I do have a question for Councilwoman Guillaume. So when do they meet? They meet during the daytime, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because we have the nutrition center downstairs that sometimes is empty, and you don't have to go through all the council and all this. I mean, it's just a meeting room. I mean, and it might be big enough for your needs if you spread out. I don't know how many people attend your meetings, but that'll save you from having to go through the gold room rules and regulations and all that. So you may want to look at that space also, because it's right across the street and it's just downstairs.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. I'll definitely look into that. And again, in being fully transparent, the resident services coordinator over there has been very engaged, and she's the one that actually, I suggested the Woodmore space and other places, but she's the one that also suggested the gold room. So I did not think about the nutritional center. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Councilwoman Ferguson.
How many people attend those meetings? Do you know?
They haven't had one out of fear of COVID. They've been trying to have one, but a lot of the citizens were afraid. So I can't actually give you a number because they're trying to do it right now. And they're actually, that's the feedback that they're getting is, can they have it at a bigger space and then the residents will come out?
Have they had it virtually?
No.
Okay, I was going to say the same thing that Councilman Herring said. Maybe they can use that area downstairs. I mean, and how often do they meet?
I'm thinking once a month is what she's trying to do. I'm hoping that if permissible, when we do meet again, if it's not during a public meeting, if somebody from Glen Arden Housing Authority is there, if the council would allow it for them to answer these questions as well. I'm fine answering for them, but I would just want to say that. But I will say that a lot of the population that I do know that live there, who are of the older age, they don't have, this is to answer the virtual part, they don't have access to jumping on, similar to the cable station. Like that's where some of the comments that I received about when is the cable coming back on, so they don't have access to jumping on a computer to do things virtually.
Okay. Yeah,
Not all, but
I
just,
would suggest down there, opposed to giving them gratis once a month to go into the town hall.
yes,
I mean, in the go room. Then you're talking about paying someone to be there.
right.
And that can open up doors for other groups and things like that. That's one of the our revenue or money makers. So I mean, I just think that for just a regular monthly meeting, me personally, I would not. I would think downstairs would be adequate.
Gotcha.
Mr. President?
Councilman Harris?
Yeah, one other thing, Ms. Guillaume, just so you know, we do have a community partnership with Glennon Recreation Center.
Okay,
And they have meeting rooms over there, and they allow us to use meeting rooms over there for free. And we allow them to use space over in our building. So I'm going to look and see if I think we're still partners with them. I'm going to look at the application to see when it expired. But I'll let you know, because they have meeting rooms over there too that they will allow us to use also.
thank you so very much.
So I'll let you know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both you and Ms. Ferguson. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ferguson and Councilman Herring. Thank you.
Miss Ferguson is fine.
Okay.
Mayor Cross?
Thank you, Council President Curtis. Also for consideration is the American Legion as a community partner. Their facility there is traditionally gratis. I mean, it's by donation, but with proper coordination, you know, they can set it up for utilization as well, because a lot of the personnel that are in the housing authority actually are associated, if you will, with the military set. So, I mean, that would be something that they could use as a community partnership in many of the programs that they sponsor there at the American Legion. So outside of the Nutrition Center, the Glen Arden Rec Center, you can also utilize the American Legion as a community partner.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Fareed, did you have something to say? I see you're off mute. Okay. All right. Well, that is all the topics that we had on our agenda, and we are on time. So I'll do a final round just in case I missed anybody. Councilman Hairston, are you all good on any comments?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you.
Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, thank you so much.
Councilwoman Fareed?
I'm good, thank you.
Councilwoman Guillaume?
Actually, I have 5 more things on that. No, I'm all good. Thank you.
Councilman Harris?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Councilwoman Ferguson?
I'm good, thank you.
Only thing I have to say is I think we're all set. We have our newly elected mayor on board now, a fully staffed council, and we're just ready to get to work for the citizens of Glen Arden. So appreciate the productive meeting tonight to discuss some important items, and looking forward to us working together to move the mission forward, as Mayor Cross would say. So thank you very much. Mayor Cross, I see your hand.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Council President. I just want to make note that the life celebration visitation for our dearly departed Chief Philip Albert O'Donnell will be Friday, September the 10th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Roshan's Funeral Home in Owings, Maryland. 8325 Mount Harming Lane, Owings, Maryland. So the family has invited the city out to pay their respects to Chief O'Donnell. So I just wanted to make that on this call because it's this Friday.
And it's also posted on the website, correct?
Yes, sir. It's posted on the website and we'll put it on the marquee, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you guys, and everyone have a good night. And for all the parents out there, hope your kids have a good first day of school if they're starting tomorrow, as mine are. So with that, this meeting is now, it is 8:50, and this meeting now is adjourned. Thank you.
You know.
Good night.